All right, welcome everyone. Hello, welcome. Amazing, everyone's
Oh,
joining in. Hello. Hey, if you can have video on today, that would be amazing. We'd love to be able to see you, but all good if you don't. I'm honestly excited about what we're going to be doing today in this webinar. Just as we gather, we would love you to add into the chat where you are in the world and what you do creatively, right? Just as we're gathering, where you are in the world and what you do creatively. Right now, I'm actually in Switzerland. I do tend to spend a lot more time between Europe and the US, but I'm in Switzerland right now, which is great. Josh, where are you right now?
I'm in just outside of Portland, Oregon, um, in a suburb called Hillsboro, USA.
Amazing. And Amy, whereabouts are you right now?
I'm actually in Seattle, Washington, so not too far away from Josh.
Kind of neighbors almost.
Yeah, it's still cold here, by the way. It's not summer yet.
It's definitely the same in Switzerland as well. I'm kind of up quite high in the Alps, so it's still pretty cold here. Summer has definitely not arrived yet, although we're getting some beautiful days. So yeah, those of you here, feel free to add into the chat. People are starting to add there now. Where you are and what you do creatively. It's always good to see where people are. A lot of people that we work with in Flambo Entrepreneur, which I'll talk more about soon, tend to be in the US, although we do have clients in Canada and occasionally throughout Europe as well. Awesome. So people starting to add into the chat. Okay, we are going to get into it. So we have an awesome webinar planned. Honestly, I'm just so excited. So we might get Josh to take us underway and do a bit of an intro, and then we'll be diving into things. So over to you, Josh.
Thank you. Thanks, Logan. Yeah, like I said, my name is Josh. I am actually an illustrator. I've been working in children's books and editorial, primarily like the children's market lately, but I've been in business since 2009. Doing design and illustration. So I started working with the team, with Logan and the team, I think in March. Um, kind of my business, even though I've been in business since 2009, it's kind of been in a funk, probably since COVID, probably. So I just started working with Logan and the team to kind of re-energize my business, kind of reestablish some foundations and help identify some like future growth opportunities, and which has also helped my mindset. So yeah, so that's kind of a little bit about me.
Amazing. Over
Cool.
to
So
you, Amy.
I'm Amy. My business is called Always Be Coloring, and I sell digital products like Procreate brushes and fonts, and lettering workbooks. And my business had sort of plateaued. I started in about 2020, right after the pandemic. And I wanted to keep growing my business, but I wasn't really sure what that looked like. So that's why I joined the coaching program. And it kind of helped me shift some of my priorities to do more logo and branding work, which I also have experience in, but I wasn't really pursuing. So it's really opened up a lot of doors for me. And so Logan got his entrepreneurship master's and grew his own business for 11 years. And he's worked with universities and creative programs and worked with hundreds of graphic designers and visual creatives to grow their business or to leave their day jobs.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amy and Josh. That's great. So, yeah, I'll add a little bit more to that about myself, and then we're going to be diving into the actual training for today. So, as Amy mentioned, I've been working with visual creatives a very long time now and had my own creative business as well. My background is, yes, I had that creative business for 11 years. And as Amy mentioned, I went and got my entrepreneurship master's as well. And that sort of turned into a lot of teaching work, which evolved over the years. So these days, most of our clients, as I mentioned, are primarily in the US, Canada, and a few in Europe as well. And we help visual creatives. So yeah, visual creatives involves lots of different areas, but particularly illustrators, graphic designers, muralists as well. So that's the key area of people we work with. In terms of stages, we work with people that are very early stage, trying to get things really moving and working. Maybe they've got a day job. and they really want to maybe leave that day job, right? So that's group one, want to get started. Group two, a bit more like further along, they're like, hey, I'm doing this, but I really want to get this working to that next level. So probably a bit more like Amy. And group three are a bit more like Josh. They're people that are like, hey, I've actually been doing this for sometimes 10, sometimes even 20 years, but I want to pivot my business, or I want to add more revenue is also part of it, but also keep that balance in terms of well-being and not burn out and all those things there. So effectively, it's business coaching for very talented visual creatives. So that's a bit of a blurb about myself. If you don't know me, you'll also be noticing that accent is a bit funny as well. So I am actually from New Zealand, although I don't spend too much time there these days, but that is where the accent is from. Some people guess Australia, some people would guess England, but it is actually New Zealand. So there we go. Awesome. So what we are going to be doing today is we're going to be giving away 3 freebie coaching calls. They will be 30-minute coaching calls with myself. And if that's something that's interesting for you, we're going to be putting the link in the chat. We'd love you to check this out. It's basically a survey that you fill in. Even if you're not interested in a coaching call, fill it in anyway, because you're going to get a ton of value from just filling it in. It's amazing. It's an amazing survey. It really helps people to clarify where they're at, and dig in some of their challenges and dreams as well. In addition to the 3 calls with me, we'll also be giving some calls to Paul, with Paul from our team. Paul is our creative business specialist on the team as well. So we're setting up some of those calls. So fill that in. We would love to obviously, potentially have a call with you, whether you're watching and with us here live or watching the recording as well. And Celeste here, who's here from the team as well, is the person who'll be emailing you around that too, and might have even been having some conversations with some of you via the DMs already, because I know some of you were invited here as well. Amazing. So look, that's a little bit of information about that. We're going to be digging right into an amazing training around overcoming blocks, right? So overcoming blocks in your creative business. And this is something that we thought would be a really good topic. So Josh, Amy and I and my team thought, what could this be on? And thought this would be an amazing topic. And we're going to be diving right into it. We've got some good stuff around this. At Flammable Entrepreneur, we work with tons of people, and we get to see what gets in the way of their own success. Right? What sorts of mindset blocks there are? Yes, what sorts of business blocks there are? What are the things that really just stop them from moving forward? Or what are the things that have got them stuck, right? And they need to get unstuck from. So that's what we're going to be really focusing on. We're going to be focusing on some of the top things that come up for you to be really aware of, and some strategies to deal with them as well. So number one is the perfectionism trap. Oh, perfectionism trap. Raise your hand if you're like, yep, that's something I struggle with, right? Perfectionism, for sure. It's a very common thing for many, many people. So, I think there's so much incredible creative work in the world. There's so much incredible creative work in the world that people never get to see, right? It's hidden behind closed doors because of this, because of perfectionism, because people think, well, it's not good enough, so I don't want anyone to ever see this. The reality is that you do need to actually get your work out there to see what people like and to improve, right? Because you can always buy that work later, especially with something like Instagram. People go, oh, I don't want to share my work on Instagram. What if people don't like it? Well, that's good feedback, one thing, and they probably will like it. And look, you can always literally archive it in months or years' time. People do that all the time. So what we often see is that people get really blocked and stuck with it. It's a bit of an internal distraction, and it really slows them down from success, right? So one of the balances of growing a creative business is that you're going to have to create a lot of work, right? That's one of the true realities. You're going to have to create a lot of artistic work. And one of the challenges is that you'll be needing to find the balance between the time you have and what you can actually sell these things for. Right? And it's something that can be very challenging. So if you always aim for everything to be absolutely perfect, absolutely flawless, well, yeah, that it may be absolutely incredible, but you'll probably never finish it. Right? The eye of the beholder is always looking at going, it's not good enough. It's not good enough yet. So rather than having that perfection mindset of it has to be perfect, instead ask, is it good enough? Right? Because we don't want to put rubbish out there in the world. We don't want to put bad work out there. That's something different. But is it good enough? Right? Is this work good enough for the client? Is this good enough to put on Instagram? Is this good enough to put out there? It's a very good way of thinking about it, rather than going, is this perfect? Right? Because for most people, nothing is ever really perfect. It's very hard to reach perfection. Now, I'm not saying don't care about the creative work. It's still important, but we need to be aware that sometimes perfectionism is unachievable, or it's going to take many, many, many hours, and it's not going to be sustainable. You're going to exhaust yourself. You're going to burn yourself out. And if you're trying to grow a business, you ultimately won't be able to make the revenue side work within that as well. So it is a bit of a balance to be made. So it's a huge topic, of course. Amy, we'd love to hear your thoughts around this in terms of, some of your own experiences from this as well.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I've really struggled with. I've struggled with, posting my work and completing my work. You just kind of work on something for so long that you end up, 6 hours later, you're right back to where you were in the first place. And so it's just, perfectionism is just a waste of time and energy, it's kind of an excuse for not acting too, so when you do just go ahead and act and put something out there, really amazing things can happen. Yeah.
I love it. It's so good. And it's so good to obviously hear Amy and Josh is going to be sharing more around some of these things as well, because they're both in it, right? They're both doing these things. They're both experiencing things like perfectionism as well. Look, the next thing we're going to jump into, and this is very much connected to perfectionism, which is comparison, right? And how comparison can really kill opportunities. Right now, comparison is, when you look at others and you go, oh, am I better or worse or the same as them? Right. And I'm sure most of you, if you're on Instagram, most of the people you follow, and probably a lot of people that follow you, are probably other creators, right? That tends to be what you're interested in, is seeing other creative work. So what can happen is you start comparing yourself. Oh, how's my work? What's the quality of my work like? My style's not as good as that. Or it is good here and it's better than that person, but it's not as good as this person, right? This is a very natural human thing that we do. We compare ourselves to others. Now, one of the things is that we are our own worst critics, right? So we see our own flaws in our work, right? These are flaws and things that other people won't even notice. And that's because we're so close to the work, right? And we're striving for things like perfectionism. We really want it to be really, really incredible. But we see those flaws. We go, this part here looks terrible. Oh, I'm going to have to do the whole thing. I'm going to have to throw it out. When actually a lot of other people, they aren't seeing those flaws, right? So what can often happen is everyone on Instagram, including all the people that you're following, are going, oh, I'm actually not as good as all of these people. And they feel the same thing about you. They're looking at you going, wow, that person's incredible, but I'm not, in terms of their work, right? So that perfectionism, as well as the comparison, can really kill the opportunities, because it can make you feel like you're not good enough. You're not good enough to put your work out there. You're not good enough to start or grow your business, right? It can really hold you back from moving your business forward. Now, the important thing here to notice is the thing in your way. Like, what is the thing in your way here? Is it your creative skills and abilities, or is it something else? Right? Is it like the reason? And some people go, well, my business isn't really working, or I'm not getting engagement, or I'm struggling to make this all work. But it seems like other people are making it all work. What am I doing wrong? Maybe I'm not good enough creatively. Usually it's not that. Usually it's the business stuff, right? The stuff that's getting in people's way is the business stuff. Things like marketing, things like the admin side, the finance side, right? That is often the thing that gets in people's way. And I get to talk to people all the time. So does Paul from my team. These are people that some we end up working with, some we don't. But we get to really see what's in their way. And we see all the time people go, oh, well, I don't think I'm good enough with my work. And then we look at their work and we're like, your work is incredible. That's not the thing that's in your way. It's the business stuff. And they're like, and we're like, well, how do you feel about the business stuff? How do you feel about the marketing? And they're like, oh yeah, that stuff's hard. It's scary and difficult. Right. And that's often the thing that's in their way. Yeah, occasionally we come across people where we're like, the creative work, maybe it does need some more work before they really focus on the next stage. But most of the time, it's actually the business stuff that's getting in their way. And because the business isn't working, they're going, it must be the creative stuff, because that's the stuff I understand. And that's the stuff you know what to do about. You go, okay, well, I can go learn another medium. I can go work on my craft. I can just go do another creative course, right? So you can end up in the spiral of like, oh, I need to change my portfolio. I need to update my portfolio. I need to work on my style and all these things here. And look, that is an ongoing thing. I'm not saying these things don't matter. However, most people we talk to and everyone we work with, those things are good enough already to build a sustainable long-term business of their current skill set. but it's the business stuff that's getting in their way. So this is a very, very interesting thing to notice and really understand is what is in your way, and really digging in there and going, well, probably is the business stuff, but that stuff's scary and hard and difficult, and it's easy to avoid as well. One other thing I will share around this whole concept of comparison is this amazing quote I quite like, which is that you need to keep in your own lane, right? We need to keep in our own lane. That means we need to also focus on the journey that we're on. And sometimes we need to forget what other people are doing, right? Because yes, there's going to be people out there who are probably better, and there's probably people out there who are probably worse than what you are doing. However, there is a ton of opportunity in the world for lots and lots of people. And we're going to talk more about abundance mindset a little bit later, but this is part of it as well, right? So we just need to be very aware that, yeah, there probably is going to be people better and worse than you, but are you good enough? Are you good enough to put your work out there? Are you good enough to build a business? Actually, for most people, their creative skills are good enough. It's the business stuff that they struggle with as well. Would love to hear your thoughts around this, Josh, as well, and reflections from your journey too.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like there's two main things. Like there's the actual comparison with other people's work, and then the shiny object syndrome, where you just see what other people are doing in other lanes, and you're just like, oh, I need to do that, and then I need to do that and that, and you basically don't end up making headway on any direction. So yeah, I mean, it's in the first thing, like where you're actually comparing, you know, yourself to others. I always like to tell myself, like, there's always someone going to be better than me. I mean, that's a fact. Um, and so the more I share, the more I post, and the more, yeah, I just kind of get comfortable with that it's okay. It's okay. That's just the natural, that's just how it is. And also there's times when I've learned to recognize in my own self, there's times when I can look at other people's artwork and get really inspired, whether it's Instagram or anything. And there's times when I look at it and I just get really discouraged. And when I can like recognize that feeling in myself, that's when I know if it's the discouragement. Then I'm like, okay, maybe it's time to just back off of Instagram for today, focus on my own thing, focus on my own wins, my own, you know, my own work. And that's just, and that's been a really help for me. And also I try not to look at how many likes other people get on their posts. I try to tune that out. So, but
I love it.
yeah,
So
so
powerful.
that's,
I love that, Josh. It's awesome.
yeah.
That there's that function that so many people use these days. Like, so you see now on Instagram, people like, oh, this many and others like it. So you can
Yeah.
actually change it. It's like so many people doing that. You're like, I don't even know how. You know.
I do that on mine, just because I don't want people judging my post by how many likes I've gotten. So, um, yeah, something to
Love it.
consider, I guess.
No, it's so good. And once again, so good to get Josh's perspective as well on this as well, and really sharing these things. Before we move on, something that I love to do on these webinars is to get everyone sharing their Instagram URL, because it's a great chance for us to connect with you. If we're not already connected, make sure that three of us are connected, as well as connect with each other. So if you can post your Instagram URL, Celeste, who's here from my team, will also post our Flambo Entrepreneur one. I know we've connected with some of you already. We recognize a few names, but we'll definitely make sure we connect with you all as well. And yeah, Josh and Amy are both posting theirs in the chat too. Do make sure it's the URL rather than like just put an at tag, because then everyone can actually click on it. And I encourage you to go and follow each other as well. So yeah, go to a website and actually load it up there, copy and paste it into the chat, just like everyone is doing there as well now, which is awesome. So very, very cool. And then just make sure you go through and follow everyone else here, like everyone else here. Now you've got, building your creative network a little bit more as well, which is all part of it. Community is an important part of business, and making sure you've got people around you who are on similar journeys and going through similar challenges and all those things there. Oh, we're going to talk about growth and fixed mindset next. This is one of my favorite topics. So these are kind of interesting things. Fixed mindset is basically saying that you're fixed in your current level of knowledge and where you are at. Right, so you can't learn new things. This is just, you are what you are. You know, there's lots of different sayings around it. An old dog can't learn new tricks, those sorts of things. And that, yeah, if we're not good at maths, well, we're not good at maths and we're never going to be good at it. If we're not good at the business stuff, we're never going to be good at it. If we're not good at the creative stuff, we're never going to be good at it. Right, this is a fixed mindset. Now, what's interesting about a fixed mindset is that most people in the world operate by a fixed mindset. Right, most people have fixed mindset rather than growth mindset, which we're going to go over next. That means that probably most of your friends, family, people around you are operating in that fixed mindset of, well, this is my life, this is my knowledge, this is where I'm at, this is the opportunities for me, this is the possibilities, right? So that's where most people in the world operate in that way, right? So we've got to be very, very aware of that. Now, the opposite is growth mindset. Right? Growth mindset says you can learn anything, right? You can get better at anything. You do not need to be a world-class expert at, say, math or business, but you can definitely get better than where you are now. You can learn more, right? And all of you here have learned a ton on the creative craft side, right? That's part of why you're here, is you've grown that craft. And this means you can also do other things as well. That's proof. Right. And no matter what age you are, no matter where you are in the world, there's always opportunities to learn and be educated and to grow and to learn more new things. And part of it is that mindset will dictate the reality that happens for you. Right. So one of my favorite quotes I love to share is, if you think you can or if you think you can't, either way, you are right. Right? If you think you can, if you think you can't, either way, you're right. And some friends, some very close friends of mine, put it on a plaque for my 21st birthday. They wrote that quote on, which was pretty cool. And it's something that's really traveled through with me over many years as well. But it's a powerful idea. Part of it is really about saying that this stuff is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Right? If you believe that you are no good at something and you will never be good at something, then you probably are never going to be good at that thing, because you don't think it's possible, so you're never going to take the time to learn or lean in, because you're like, well, what's the point? Why would I even bother to take my time and energy for that? Right? So we've got to be very aware that these things can be a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it can work for you as well. Right? So you might say, yes, I can learn, I can figure things out. I'm a beginner right now on this stuff. And it could be on the business stuff, right? Within creative business. You might say, well, I'm a beginner at this marketing stuff, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to learn. I'm going to get support. Right? So this is a really important part of that. So rather than being stuck in the fixed mindset, part of it is understanding this thing is real, it's out there, it's common in the people around you, it's probably common in yourself at times as well. Instead, what can you do? You can learn, right? You can get mentors who help to teach you and to educate you and guide you. You can build community around you of people, of the right people, that get the people that also have a mindset which is not stuck as a fixed mindset, but they're working on a growth mindset. Notice I said working on a growth mindset, right? This is something that you work on. This is not something that you just are or have. Just like you can build confidence or you can learn a skill, you can also learn and work on having more of a growth mindset as well. And part of that is taking action anyway, learning, as I said, getting people around you to support you and building a community of like-minded people as well. Amy, would love to hear your thoughts and experiences around this one here.
Yeah, I guess for me, kind of the fixed mindset that I had was like, I'm bad at business, I'm bad at money, I'm bad at the business stuff. And that's just the way it is. But that's not true. The truth is I just needed help with it. You know, I was bad at it because no one had ever really taught me those things. And that's one of the things that's been so helpful about the coaching program, is I was able to learn those things. And when you learn them and you start practicing them, you do get better at them. So it's like I sell lettering workbooks because I believe that anyone can get good at lettering. You know, you don't have to have ever done it before, but you can still get good at it. You can learn anything. Sometimes you can't, or it's hard to see improvement right away while you're doing it, but it's happening. Every time you practice something, you know, you're improving at it and getting better. So
Ah, I love it. So powerful. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I love what LaDonna you've shared here as well in the chat. Growth is a process. right? Growth is a process that really outlines that as well. And I know, you know, it's a journey that you're on, Amy, you're on, Josh, and these are journeys you're still on in terms of growth and these things here. You know, we often say in coaching, like the mindset work never ends. It's not like, okay, great, I now have a growth mindset or I have an abundance mindset. It's like, no, like you will continue to work on these things. And that mindset may shift and change over time, but it's something you need to keep working on. You'll be like, oh, I've unlocked this stage. I've got this stuff sorted. And you're like, there's another level, there's another mountain to climb, right? This is definitely part of it as well. I love that. We're going to talk next about fear of vulnerability. Fear of vulnerability. So a lot of people try and avoid things like feeling vulnerability or getting stuff wrong or looking silly. A lot of people try and avoid that because it's kind of a natural, right? I don't want to look silly in front of other people. I don't want to, you know, look vulnerable. I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing. The reality is that to grow a business, you're probably going to have to do stuff that's really hard that you don't know how to do, and there's going to be lots of figuring out, lots of experimentation. Sometimes you're going to look like a beginner, whether that's on the creative side or on the business side, right? You might be like, okay, I'm going to try and do this thing. I'm going to try and do this marketing tactic here, whether that's sharing on Instagram or cold email or trying to go to a networking event. Oh yeah, the first time you do it, or if you haven't done it in a while, yeah, you're probably going to look a bit silly. But how do you grow? How do you get better at these things? You get out there and you look a bit silly initially, and you get that experience, you learn. So part of this process is being vulnerable and actually opening up about these things and testing and trying these things. So experimentation is something that we talk a lot about on our programs. Is experimentation is going to be part of it. I think, you know, I think everyone wants the answer, the solution, the perfect strategy. And I just follow this thing A, B, C, D, and then it's done. No, part of it is going to be trying different tactics and approaches and experimentation. There's not the perfect way to do things. Something that worked for someone else may not work for you at all or may not work as well. So this is going to be part of it, as experimentation. With experimentation means you're going to look a bit silly at times. You're going to feel a bit vulnerable, right? And failure is actually going to happen as well. So, you know, this is kind of linked to that idea of failure, in that people often just try and avoid failure at all costs, right? Because failure, we don't want failure, right? Well, failure is also how you learn and how you grow. And one of the things I say about failure is if you're not failing at all, it means you're probably not trying to reach your potential. You're probably not reaching the potential that you have, right? You're holding yourself back, because actually, as you grow and as you move forward, you probably are going to fail, and that's okay. You're going to learn even more from that as well. Something else I'll mention around vulnerability here is that, you know, vulnerability is something that you're going to have to do to grow your business by opening up to other people, right? Whether that's your mentors, your coaches, your community, right? If you just pretend, I know what I'm doing, everything's all good, well, you're probably not going to grow. You're going to be stuck at that point. Whereas if you open up and really say, hey, here's what's going on, here's what the struggles are, then actually you're going to be able to work through those things, whether that's the support of a coach or a mentor or other peers, right? These things are hard to do. It's something that in our programs, we do have a community element, and yeah, we get people to open up, right? And that can be pretty scary for people. But when you have a trusted network of people, it's incredibly powerful. So I think, you know, just such an incredible thing to be aware of is that fear of vulnerability and holding yourself back from being vulnerable can actually stop you, right? Can get in the way of the opportunities for you as well. Sometimes you're going to have to fail to learn as well. Josh, we'd love to hear your thoughts around the vulnerability side as well.
Yeah, this might actually be the hardest one
Yeah.
for me, when I really think about it. And it's like, it's hard to identify in your own thought process, because you feel like you kind of like, for me at least, I kind of like deceive myself thinking, oh, I've got it. Like kind of like you said, oh, I've got it. I'm fine. Um, but yeah, just learning, just learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable, I think, and failing at things and being bad at new things. It's really difficult for me, but I feel like I'm getting better at it. There's obviously the artwork side of it, and then there's the business side of it. Like the artwork side, there's times where it kind of goes back to like, um, it's kind of a little bit kind of with comparison, but like, you know, I'll get into a funk where I'm just like, I don't want to share anything because I'm afraid of being vulnerable because, our work as creatives, our work is so tied to us, right? So I have to tell myself to post as much as I can to kind of break that, like, that mentality. And then also, like, all the new stuff in Instagram, like creating reels and things like that. That's all really, that's all new for me, and creating videos and things like that. And, just when I'm doing that, you're feeling vulnerable, or I'm feeling vulnerable. And also, one of the things with the program on the business side of it is, like you said, is outreach, is thing that I'm tackling now, and reaching out to new potential clients or past clients that I haven't talked to in a while, and just getting really comfortable with that process. Um, it's actually quite. I think it's actually a pretty good process. So that's kind of those are kind of my thoughts on that.
Amazing. I love it, Josh. So,
Yeah.
so good. We're going to carry on here. We've got another few points, and what we will be doing at the end of this, we'll have some time for Q&A as well. We were sent in a few questions beforehand too from people, but if people do have questions, something that you want to ask, particularly around this topic here, you can just fire that in the chat anytime from now on. So just have a think about what you would want to ask, and we'll see if we can dive into that as well, and we'll get through as many questions as we can. The next thing we're going to talk about is imposter syndrome, right? Oh, this is something that is very real. A lot of people struggle with this, and it's related to everything that we've been talking about already, right? It is related to fear of vulnerability. It's related to things around fixing and growth mindset, and of course, comparison and perfection, these things here as well. So often those things are causing the imposter syndrome, right? The comparison or the desire for perfection, right? That's creating the situation where you feel like the imposter. So imposter syndrome, remember, is basically that you feel like you're not good enough, right? That you're maybe putting yourself out there and you're like, oh, good, who am I? Who do I think? Who do I think I am? And I'm not actually that good. Someone once said to me, like, Logan, don't tell anyone, but I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to the business stuff, right? Don't tell anyone. It's like, it needs to be this big secret. And it's like, it's good, it's okay. You can learn, you can grow. But it's that imposter of like, what if someone figures me out? What if someone realizes that, I'm a beginner, or, there's times where I don't know what I'm doing, or there's struggles that I have, and there's failures. I failed at something last week. And yeah, sometimes I'm not very good at what I do because I get exhausted or burned out, and these things happen, right? So imposter syndrome is probably one of the biggest things that I see getting in people's way, is the fear of them getting found out that they're not that good. And often it's in here, right? Imposter syndrome, in a way, is there to protect ourselves, right? Because we don't want to put ourselves out there and someone to go, who do you think you are? And then you get sort of kicked out of your group, right? That's where these feelings come from. But actually, for most people, they're not an imposter. They're actually very good at what they do. But I want you to think about the difference between this business stuff we're talking about and the creative stuff. One of the things we see all the time is that people who are maybe in the earlier stage of running their business, they feel like they're not very good at the business stuff, but they're really great at the craft, right? They're really good at their creative craft. And what they do is they put themselves out there at really low cost, right? So they put their pricing really low because they're like, well, I'm not that good. And I'm like, what are you not that good at? And they're like, well, I only just started my business. And I'm like, yes, but these are completely different things, the business stuff and the creative stuff, right? So if they're really good at what they do creatively, they can charge great rates straight away, even if they're still figuring out some of the business side and the business stuff and how to do the marketing and how to set this up and how to do that part there, right? They can actually still be charging really good rates, right? And we often see people do that is they get stuck in things like imposter syndrome, saying, well, I'm new in business. It's like, that's okay. If you're new in business, can you still deliver something great? Right? Do you have the creative skills and abilities to deliver something great? And usually the answer is yes. It's just the business stuff that's actually getting in their way, right? So, part of the stuff here, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but part of it comes down to people focusing often on the wrong stuff when they're trying to grow their business. So things like imposter syndrome are stopping them from putting themselves out there and trying to grow their business. Instead, what they're doing is they're like, I need to get better, right? I need to go and update my portfolio, as I mentioned, or they need to go do more creative classes, do more of that. And it's because that there is stuff they know. That's the safe space. Right? The safe space is learning more of what you already know. right? Because you're like, I get it, I understand. Whereas things like the business side for many creative people is not the safe space. That's the scary space. It's outside the comfort zone, right? We think about the comfort zone as the circle here. Well, the business stuff is often outside that, right? So what do people do? Well, they lean away from the stuff they need to, which is learn more about business stuff, test things, try things, experiment, right? Try and send those first emails, just like Josh was talking about, right? And test these different methods and strategies as well. So I want everyone to be very, very aware of the imposter syndrome, and whether it's something you have or not, well, most people do have some level of this and a feeling, and that feeling can hold them back from growing a beautiful business, from putting their amazing work out there, from actually attempting things and trying things as well, because they feel like I will do it when I'm ready, right? And they are not going to ever be ready. And how do you get ready? You get out there and do it anyway, and then you're going to be ready, right? So it's a powerful idea within this. Amy, would love your thoughts around this one.
Yeah, this one is hard. I mean, I do think that everyone, struggles with this at some point anyway. It's hard to, not compare yourself to others with social media and all that. But so for me, like, I just thought like I can't do logos and branding, or I can't put myself out and try to get that kind of work because I'm not going to be good enough. I'm not going to have enough good ideas. Like I just can't do it. And what you guys really emphasized to me in the program was to just my skills are there. I just have to start before I'm ready. And it turns out like all these things that I was afraid of, they didn't actually happen. Like maybe my process with clients and stuff isn't like completely streamlined, but I've been able to do some amazing projects, and I have been proud of my work and everything. So it's just, if I was letting that sort of fear control me, I wouldn't have gotten these opportunities that I've gotten lately. So I guess that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, I love it. It makes me think about a couple of things. So one of them is the duck on water, right? We see this duck out there gracefully on the lake, just kind of floating along, and then under the water they're going like this here, and that's sometimes what it feels like, right? And then running the business is that the clients are being the duck on water. They're going, wow, this person's great at what they do, and then yeah, you're in the background trying to do the business stuff and sort out how to do the invoicing and figure this out, and maybe I should have a template email on this, right? That's the duck underwater. Right. So that's part of it as well, is this process can look very different between yourself and the client, right? And ultimately, it's, can you deliver great value, right? Can you actually deliver the thing, the great creative thing to the client? Yes, there's going to be some systems in the background, things you need to work out, things you're figuring out, and that's actually okay as well. The other thing that makes me think about is I once saw a T-shirt that said fire, aim, ready, right? So we think about ready, aim, fire, right? And it said fire, aim, ready. And it's like, oh, like often that is the way to grow and to learn and to get better and to get ready, is to actually fire. Okay, I'm going to try this thing. I'm going to sort of navigate as I go. I'm going to aim as I go, and that'll get me ready. Right. So this is such a powerful part of it as well. And I need to get that T-shirt and wear it in some of our trainings. It's a fun one. Awesome. We're going to talk about scarcity versus abundance mindset next, right? This is the final point we're going to be sharing before we jump into question time. Scarcity versus abundance mindset. It's kind of related to fixed versus growth mindset. And kind of like I talked about with fixed mindset, with scarcity mindset, most people in the world have scarcity mindset. Most people in the world have scarcity mindset. That means that could be your brother, your sister, your partner, your cousin, your family, your friends, your best friend could have this, right? So most people operate in this world by having more of a scarcity mindset rather than the opposite, which is abundance mindset. So scarcity mindset basically says there's not enough. There's not enough in this world, right? We are all fighting over the jobs out there, the contracts out there, the clients out there, the opportunity, right? And it's a bloodbath. We're all fighting over it, and if you're the best, you might win, and you've got to get out there, and you've got to really dig, and you've got to push people out of the way, and you've got to fight your way through it, right? That's scarcity mindset, right? And you hear people say things, oh, there's not enough of this, or there's not enough that. too competitive, or there's not jobs out there, right? So this is something that's very prevalent, and we also see it in the media a lot too, right? So most media is actually geared to be more negative than positive because it gets more attention, right? And media is all about advertising, and they need to get more people, more attention. So therefore, there's more negative media. So we can actually start to think that there is more scarcity in the world, and that there's not enough opportunities, right? However, abundance mindset is the direct opposite. Abundance mindset says there's opportunities for everyone. There's opportunities in this world for everyone, right? And remember, I'm not talking about reality here. I'm talking about your mindset of how you face reality, right? So like before, self-fulfilling prophecy. If you have more of a scarcity mindset, you're going to be fulfilling that prophecy because everything that you see and experience is going to support that idea, right? So yeah, if you are in scarcity mindset and you look at the world out right now, you could go, this is a terrible, horrible, absolutely terrible place where there's no opportunities, and I can't start a business, and I can't grow a business, and the economy's a mess right now, and there's lots of things happening. And don't get me wrong, there's things happening in the world right now for sure. Absolutely, not taking anything away from that. But the thing here is that there's a mindset piece around the opportunities for you as an individual. People with abundance mindset go, there's opportunities for me. There's opportunities in this world. I can learn more. I can grow. I can get these opportunities. I can put myself out there because there's plenty enough for everyone. There's plenty of money. There's plenty of clients. There's plenty of opportunities. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy because the people with abundant mindset are the ones that get out there and do it and take action, right? The people with scarcity mindset, well, they don't. They're like, well, what's the point? I sometimes give this analogy of going fishing, right? We're going fishing, there's a lake. Now, if you believe that lake has no fish in it, you're not even going to put your fishing rod in the water because what's the point, right? If that's your belief, right? You say, well, what's the point? There's no fish in this lake. Yeah, you're not even going to put your rod in the water. You're never going to actually find out whether there's fish in it. So it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You're going to say, see, look, no fish. You come home, there's no fish. No fish I got to take home. Well, it's because you never put the rod in the water. Whereas if you have an abundance mindset and you say, you know what, there's fish out there and I'm going to catch them. And you're going to get your fishing rod out there, and you're going to get some buddies, some friends down as well, and they're going to get out there too. And maybe you're going to get a boat out there and you're going to go off the boat with it. And you're like, well, they're there. I just need to find them. Right? You know they're there. So therefore, you're probably going to be the one that gets the fish because you spend more time out there. You've got the actual rods in the water and you're trying. Right? It's the same in running your own creative business. We see this all the time. We see people with a mindset of, it's really competitive and there's no opportunities. And, the economy is quite bad right now. And this is affecting all the industries. And, AI is killing all jobs in all these areas immediately right now. There's no opportunity. Right? You see people with that mindset. And those people, they're not taking action because why would they? What's the point? Because taking action can be hard, right? It takes time, it takes energy, right? We can get exhausted, we can get overwhelmed, right? So it's hard to take action already. And if you believe that it's not worth it, you're not going to do it. Abundance mindset, you go, absolutely, there's opportunities out there. I just need to get out there and face them as well. So, this is, as you can see, something I'm very, very passionate about. And something that you need to be very aware of is that it's something you can work on, right? So we don't just, there's not a push the button, I now have abundance mindset. Amazing, great. No, this is something that a lot of people struggle with. First part of anything is that awareness of this difference between scarcity and abundance, and noticing when you fall into an abundance mindset. When you fall into a scarcity mindset. And you go, that's interesting. I'm operating out of scarcity right now. I'm operating out of fear. What is something that you can do to increase your abundance mindset? Well, number one is surround yourself with the right people, right? Ideally, surround yourself with people who are also in abundance mindset or working on abundance mindset. Surround yourself with people who are supporters and cheerleaders and mentors and coaches and encouragers, right? Because they're going to be the people that are going to help you lift you up from that scarcity mindset to the abundance mindset as well. And then finally, taking action, right? We go on and on about this in our programs. Both Amy and Josh are like, yeah, I've heard you say this a lot, Logan, right? Part of it is actually just doing it anyway, right? And feeling the fear and doing it anyway. I don't know. I don't think there's any fish in this lake, but I don't know. I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to put that reel out there and I'm going to go get a boat and I'm going to give it a go anyway, right? Because I want to see. I want to see. So, such a powerful concept. It's quite simple, but most people get this stuff wrong, right? Most people never even consider these things and never even consider what's getting in their way. And that part of it is their mindset as well. Josh, would love to hear your a bit about your journey and your thoughts around scarcity versus abundance mindset.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's definitely just echoing what you said about it being a journey, and being something you have to constantly work on. I felt like I had a pretty good abundance mindset a few years ago, and then I stopped working at it. Maybe it was during COVID, maybe during other things, and then I found myself, because maybe I thought, okay, I got that covered, right? I now have abundance mindset, like you said, and then I started realizing that I had a scarcity mindset more than an abundant mindset. Um, so that's something that I've been really been working on, and that's actually been really great being around other creatives in this program. Just a bunch of other, hearing other positive people just talking about all the great things they're doing, and I get to share all the stuff that I'm doing, and it's been really great. And then, but also, there's also some other things that I'll do sometimes when I find myself being, slipping back into the scarcity mindset. Is like just going into a grocery store or bookstore or something like that, and seeing, like, as an illustrator, um, seeing all the illustration or seeing all the artwork that's used on all the different packaging and books and things like that, and you kind of just surround yourself with all the abundant, opportunities, really. So I mean, people had to hire these artists to create all this stuff. So I think that's a really easy way that something that I've always kind of been I always do, just to snap myself out of the scarcity mindset. And it also, I think, when you're in a scarcity mindset, it keeps you from, like, being generous and collaborating with other similar creatives, like you said, like with the fishing analogy, like, oh, like, let's come, let's fish over here, versus get away. It's like you're like Gollum, Lord of the Rings. So I think, yeah, when you have an abundance mindset, it really allows you to collaborate with other creatives, and that can open more opportunities. So yeah, I think it's very important. It's one of the most important things, I think.
Yeah, I love
Um,
that. It's so powerful, right? People struggle with this stuff, and as Josh said, it's also an ongoing journey. Like, things can go up and down, and we saw it. Things like COVID, like, a lot of people fell into scarcity mind. It was a terrifying time for all of us. Right, we didn't know what's happening, and that was a very normal thing to actually do. So we can find ourselves going in and out of these different mindsets at different parts of our lives. We have different personal journeys. Different things can get in the way as well. So lots of good stuff being raised here. I also love the New Zealand Lord of the Rings reference there, Josh. So thank you, always sneaking in some New Zealand references. There we go. I did pick up on it. There we go. I love it. Look, we're going to jump into Q&A next, everyone. So if you do have a question that you want to ask, feel free to pop it into the chat, and we'll cover the questions that we can. Just before we dive into that, I did talk earlier on about the coaching call. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, free coaching call with myself. As I said, we'll be choosing 3 people to get on coaching calls with me for 30 minutes, and then a bunch more people to get on coaching calls with the amazing Paul from the team as well. So I'll just pop that link there in the chat, and we'll make sure we send that out afterwards as well within that. Okay, so
That's how I got
Ellie,
started.
yeah, there
That's
we
how
go.
I got
Actually,
started
do you
with
want
it, was doing the survey and doing the coaching calls, how I got started with the program. So it's definitely worth it to check it out.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty easy way to just connect with myself and the team, share, get some free tips as well. That's part of it too. We're always happy to get on calls with people, and sometimes people end up working with us. They go, I'd be interested in more info, and we're always happy to explore that separately as well. So it's always cool, like, yeah, Amy, you connecting through a webinar like this as well, and doing that form too. It's actually the exact same form that you would have used. So here we go. So Elliott has shared here in the chat, I get exhausted by hitting challenge after challenge along the lines of what you're discussing, and end up taking extended breaks from art making while I recover. Any thoughts on maintaining momentum while I'm still building confidence? Oh, this is a really good topic, Ellie, and a lot of people do struggle with this as well, right? They can feel very, very overwhelmed. Part of it here is understanding like why you're creating the art, right? And for a lot of people, they might be creating for a hobby, and that's one thing. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a beautiful thing. Then people get into, okay, well, am I creating it for a portfolio or to give examples of my work? So part of it for you is understanding like what is the why behind that. And then it's going to come down to things like productivity of what can you do. If you've got a day job, you probably want to create all the time, but if you do that, you're just going to exhaust yourself, right? You're not going to get enough sleep. Not going to balance those well-being things as well. So in terms of maintaining the momentum, part of it is actually setting a schedule. And right, you can do this for the creative work, right? You're allowed to break the schedule, right? That's part of being a creative person. But actually going, hey, you know what? I'm going to create, maybe it's one thing a week. Or, hey, that feels like a lot or not enough, right? You can do 2 per week or 1 per month, whatever that is. Part of it is maintaining that momentum through having realistic goals and realistic realities. What a lot of people do is they're like, I'm going to do all the things and I'm going to do it all now and it's all going to happen. And then they do it all. And then after 2 months of whatever that is, they're exhausted, they're burnt out, they just like lie down, right? So part of maintaining momentum is small, consistent action, whether it's on the art side or even, things, learning the business side as well. It's something we do in our programs. We help people to take small, consistent action. And often those actions are really small, right? They're like, what can you do that's going to take 15 minutes? Right. And having a small list of them. And they're like, almost like, oh, I don't know if that's really going to move the business forward. But then after doing a bunch of that for several months, they're like, wow, like, yes, I've learned a bunch of stuff, but I've also taken these small, consistent actions without burning themselves out. Right. Because I think burnout is one of the big enemies of running a creative business. And we see people do that occasionally. Actually, it's pretty common where people really go, 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 go. I've got to build the business, do the thing. And they start skipping sleep. They stop getting enough fitness, right? They don't eat very well. They start just overwhelming themselves and feeling overwhelmed, right? And actually, yes, they might do it right. They might have an all right business for a few months or even a year or even a couple of years. But then at some point, they're just going to be like, I just need a break. And they're going to actually lose love for the creative side of the business itself as well. So we've got to be very, very aware that you will get there, but you've got to balance these things as well. Amazing. I'm going to jump into one of the other questions that we've got, and I think this is a really good one. How do you know if you're good enough to get paid for your work? Right? Because I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with, particularly not just early on in running their business, it's also when they're maybe launching into a new area, right? So both Amy and Josh have talked a little bit about this as well, and you're both sort of pivoting things and opening up some new revenue streams, trying some different things as well. And it's a question that comes up for many people, whether they're in growth mode or early stage, is how do I know if I'm good enough? Right. And it's kind of related to all these things we've shared here. So number one, what can you do? Well, you can just ask for feedback from your peers, from your supportive community. Look, yes, from your family as well. They're probably going to say, yeah, you're amazing. It's incredible, right? That's all right. It's a start. Right. But having some peers can be helpful as well. So they can say, okay, here's what's good. Here's what's up to standard. Here's what needs some work. Part of it has been getting professionals to check. This is something that Paul and I pretty much do on every call when we first connect with people, is we'll do a bit of assessment of their work and we'll tell them where we think it's at. Right. So sometimes it's good to have a professional assessment as well. Like where does a professional who's maybe worked with a lot of people or seen a lot of work, what do they think? Do they think this is good enough? Do they think the creative skills are good enough? One of the things here that we see all the time is that most of the time, most people are actually already good enough if they're asking that question. Right? It's kind of really interesting, right? They're like, oh, I don't know if I'm good enough. And I'm like, you're crazy, this is amazing. Like, that's actually more often what we see than like, yeah, it's actually not good enough right now. You're going to have to go and work on it for 6 months. Right? It happens occasionally. But most of the time, that's not the thing in their way, just like I was talking about earlier. Look, in the end, there's only one way to answer this question. How do you know if you're good enough to get paid for your work? There's only one answer, which is you get paid for your work. Right? Like that is the reality is, yes, I can make an assessment. Other people, peers, family, friends, your mum can make assessments. But in the end, how do you really know the answer to that question? Is you get paid for your work. Right? How do you get paid for your work? You've got to get yourself out there. You've got to try. You've got to market yourself. And what's interesting about that is that you putting yourself out there and trying and marketing yourself and building the website and putting things on Instagram even if your work is not good enough, you're then going to learn that, and you're going to learn what is not good enough about it. Right? You're going to start improving it by putting yourself out there. Right? So it's not actually a bad thing to do, is actually try and sell something to someone, try and get paid for your work. So it's a very interesting thing that does come up for quite a few people as well. Amazing. We're going to jump into one more final question before we wrap up for today. And then we'll be doing some takeaways as well. So another question we've got is, it's kind of related to the first one. It's basically, when am I ready to leave my day job and go full-time, right? So there might be some people here either watching the recording or here with us live that are going like, yeah, how do I know? Like, if you have a day job, whether it's full-time or part-time, like, how do you know when you're ready to leave that? Now, one of the big things I'm an advocate of is building your business on the side of having a day job as much as you can. And I get that's hard, right? We work with a lot of people who are in this situation, right? And it can be a hard balance, because you're now trying to balance building business, plus having a job, plus family, friends, wellness, all the other things we've got to do in life, right? However, what some people do is they go, right, I'm going to quit my day job and I'll quit it, and then I'm going to go start my business. And then they go, right, what do I do? Right? And fear comes up, scarcity comes up, they're struggling, they're not bringing in the work because it's hard initially. They're trying to learn the business stuff, and they're trying to market, and they're trying to do all these things here. There's a lot to do. And they also need to pay the bills, right? They're like, I need to bring in money as soon as possible. So they start cutting their prices, slashing what they're doing, and cutting corners in their business, right? So I really don't like this approach. We occasionally work with people who have done this, and it's harder for them, right? It's harder if they've quit their day job recently and they're then trying to start. We work with people, and we can definitely help them, but it's much easier to build your business whilst you have the security of the day job. Because for most people, it's going to take months to get to a spot where they could leave their day job. We should typically see 6 to 18 months from starting a program like ours to leaving the day job, right? There's quite a wide range. Sometimes it's actually quicker, sometimes it's more. Obviously, it depends on where people are at and their background, their experience, the types of things they're doing, sometimes even where they are in the world as well. But ultimately, it's not something that just happens straight away. So I'm always saying, like, the more you can do while you have that security and you're not reliant on the business making money right now, well, the better, right? If you can learn the business skills that you can, if you can work with some clients, if you can ideally have a list of past clients, if you can work on these things around your mindset and your abundance mindset and building your confidence and getting more of the business side set up as well, that is going to be the way to eventually then leave your day job. I get it. It's always a balance, and it can be pretty hard trying to do both. And for most people, they can't do both for very long either. But this is something we just need to be aware of. And look, in the end, it's different. I'm giving some generalizations here. It's different for everyone, right? So some people, it's going to depend on their situation, right? So, do they have savings that they can sustain themselves and help themselves for a bit? Or do they have other support from a family or partner? Or, where are they at already? What are they doing? Have they got previous clients? There's lots of different elements to that. But, as I said, generally what we're seeing is that it's a good thing to build it on the side. Even if you're just chipping away at it and it's taking a while, actually learning about business, getting those clients, working on these things. Often people do sometimes leave a bit early and go, I'm going to go, grow the business and do the things, but I have to start. But that can be a very hard thing to do if you don't have that security along the way. Amazing. We've shared a lot of stuff today, and honestly, it's just been such a delight to be able to connect with both you, Josh, and Amy as well, and just love what you've both shared, and all of the ideas and things that have come out of this as well. We would love everyone that's here live to write down in the chat a takeaway. What has the takeaway been for today? What's something that's been useful or interesting, or something that you've heard, or a quote that you liked? If you just pop something in there as well, even those watching the recordings, write something down as well. It's going to really help to condense some of these thoughts and ideas as well, just as we start to wrap this up. So have a think about what those takeaways are. What are the things that you found interesting, unique, helpful, challenging? Sometimes you might have heard something, oh, that was kind of a bit challenging, triggering, or I'm surprised about that. I haven't heard that before. Oh, okay, maybe I'm in scarcity mindset. That's okay as well. You can share these things in the chat as well. Some things being shared in the chat. So yeah, stay in your lane. It's such a good one, right? It's I actually don't really encourage people too often to go and do what's called a competitor analysis, because what they do is they just start comparing themselves to everyone else out there, and they go, I'm not good enough, right? This is really, really hard. So staying in your lane, staying like Josh was saying, staying focused and focused on your journey. And sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes it's not about looking at Instagram and seeing what other people are up to. Abundance mindset is key and something to work on. Take action. Karine, love that. Thank you so much. Ellie's sharing, I'm probably playing too small because of self-doubt, right? So that's something a lot of people struggle with, right? That self-doubt, right? And playing too small. And yeah, even, hey, what if I get things wrong? Or, what if I fail? It's like, yeah, hopefully you do, because that says you're pushing things and you're going to learn from that failure as well. Yes, we want to avoid failure where possible. We don't just create it, but often it's about really trying, putting yourself out there and all these good things as well. Reassurance that what I'm feeling makes me feel not so alone, right? So absolutely, this stuff is very, very common. These things that we're discussing here are stuff that comes up for everyone we work with, right? And this is whether people are early stage in their journey or mid stage, or they've been doing this for years. These are things that definitely come up again as well. Other things being shared here: do a little every day, have a big result, right? Us humans, we're not very good at that. We think, oh, we have to do big things to make big things happen. It's like, no, big things happening in our lives are often just small things all added together as well. Amazing. We're going to wrap things up there. It's just been such a delight to connect with everyone today. Thank you to those of you that are here with us live today, and also those of you that are watching the recording. It's always amazing to connect. Do check out that survey. We would love to connect with you. We'd love to get on some calls with people as well. But it's just been such a delight to run this. Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you, Amy. It's been awesome working with you both on this one as well.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Hey, take care, everyone. We're going to wrap things up there. See you later. Have a lovely rest of your day. Ciao.